Do you really need to be convinced that integrity is the cornerstone of building trust, and for that matter, achieving success? Understanding and implementing the various lessons in integrity can help you foster authentic relationships, enhance team cohesion, boost morale, and the list goes on. But let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk because there's thinking about abiding by these lessons in integrity, and there's the fine art of actually doing it. There's a lot in it for you if you do, and today's guest will tell you how.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jolles.
Today's guest, Alex Demchek, is a highly credible and accomplished keynote speaker, author, and former SEC quarterback for the Missouri Tigers. As the CEO of Streamlined Books and co-author of The Sale, he's established himself as a trusted authority on leadership and integrity. Alex is the founder of The Speaker School, where he mentors aspiring speakers and hosts the Alex Demchek Leadership Podcast, among others. Some of his past clients include the Cincinnati Reds, U.S. Space Force, Allstate, Bridgestone, Edward Jones, USI Insurance, and the list goes on. Happy to have you with us, and welcome to the show, Alex.
Rob, thanks for having me, man. And I have to say, have you ever done any official announcing for like a UFC match or like a professional baseball game? I mean, you just sound like you would be perfect for that, man.
Well, I don't want to say anything, but let's get ready to rumble. All
right, man. Hey, you were just hoping that I teed you up for that, huh?
Hey, listen. First of all, congratulations on your book. And I'll tell you, I'm not envious a whole lot when I get people on, but 224 reviews on that book. I took a look at it. So I hated you and loved you at the same time when I saw it. But we both share Wiley. Wiley's one of my publishers as well. Good publisher. Where they stay in Hoboken now?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, they're great to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, so congratulations. That's a big time publisher. A lot of people are looking to get a book with Wiley. So congratulations on that. All right, let's talk about The Sale, which, as I thought, was a sales book, but focuses heavily on integrity. Tell me what inspired you and your co-author Jon Gordon to emphasize that in this book.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's to your point in the introduction, you said it's so easy to talk about it or to think about it, but it's a whole different thing to live it. And I think, my background, after I played college football, I did get into sales for about 5 years. And I would just, when I think back to that time period, I think what was able to set me apart from the pack in a lot of ways was what you just said, in being a fully integrated leader and being transparent in what I was selling. And the reality is, what I had to realize in a former job, even before that, as I was selling a product that I didn't truly believe in, how it could help people. And I think that does tie into sales, to your point, when it, how does integrity tie into what I'm selling? Well, for me, I think maybe it's my personality. I just had to realize, if I do not believe in what I am selling, I should not be in that role. I am selling the wrong thing. And I just think when I think about this integrity-based approach to selling, it does have implications in a very positive way, but there are implications in a negative way when you think about maybe deals that you might miss out on because you are transparent with the client. You're not hiding something from them. So in the short term, it's like, oh man, should I really be forthright in my dealings? But then from a long-term perspective, when you think about it like that, it's like, yes, I do. I'm glad that I did it this way. But in the moment, it's easy to make these short-term decisions. And I think so often young people get into a profession like sales and they think, I just got to make commissions. I just got to make money. And pretty easily they can make decisions that they look back on and say, man, I wish I did not do that. And so I think the message for me, to your point of The Sale, it's more than just a sales book. It's not just X's and O's on here's how to sell. It's when you look at your career and your life, how do you want to look back on it at the end of your career, at the end of your life? Do you want to look back and say, you know what? Yeah, I cheated people in ways. I wasn't forthright in what I did, or I gave like my best effort. I helped serve people. I added value in a way that like I can sleep well at night. And I think that's a little bit of the heartbeat of the book, and why we wanted to write it, because it's a countercultural message. It really is. And in a lot of ways, it's, hey, climb the ladder as quickly as you can, or push others to the side to have success. And we're saying, you know what, it doesn't have to be that way. There's ways that you can honor and serve the people that you add value to while also being very successful.
Well said. Well said. You don't know this about me, but I started as an insurance agent and I lasted 2 years, 4 months, 2 days, about an hour and a half. But it took me almost 11 years to exceed the income I made when I was 21. It had nothing to do with not being able to sell the product. Why in the world was a 21-year-old selling life insurance? Who do you think I was selling to? Bunch of 21-year-olds, and we were missing that thing. Oh yeah, called a need. Okay. Well, there was no baby, there was no house, there was no spouse. We could insure insurability. I'm not opposed to life insurance. It's a very important, valuable product. But to your point, I didn't believe in it from my perspective. And, there's a simple saying that some genius came up with. Oh, yeah, it's me. No, but I wrote down one time, the easiest way to be believed is to tell the truth. And I know that sounds trite, but it's absolutely true. And eventually, when you're not telling the truth, and we can fool ourselves, it catches up with you. It just kind of just erodes and erodes.
Exactly. And I do this sometimes when I do a speaking engagement to a sales team. I'll bring in one tennis ball and I'll say, hey, if you're doing something, maybe it's in your personal life or maybe it's in sales in your career, it's, you have this one tennis ball, and imagine this tennis ball represents maybe just a white lie or something that, does not line up with who you are, your values, the company's values. So as you start, what I do literally in this room is I'll start throwing the juggle. I'll throw the ball in the air. Right. And I'm like, it's easy to juggle one. And it's easy to kind of get away with one when you don't have a lot of plate spin. When you're not juggling a lot. And not to brag about my juggling skills, but I end up getting all the way up to 3, and I start getting fancy, go behind the back, under the legs. I wish I could do it in your podcast here. But then the whole demonstration is I go over and I grab a 4th tennis ball and I say, watch what happens when you get to the point where you kind of think you're invincible, you're untouchable, you can get away with things because you make a lot of money, whatever, you rationalize little things. And what I do is I literally start juggling 4, and I can do it for a little bit, but after a while, what happens? Everything crashes down. And to your point, exactly, that's the message. And I tell people, don't forget that, because if you think that, it could be any area of your life. And I'm preaching to myself as I say this, but, I heard someone say this, if you are a leader that can't be questioned, you might be a questionable leader. And I just think that is true in a lot of ways. It's like, just not thinking that you're above certain things, I think is so important. And I think to your point, like for me, Streamline Books, you mentioned it. We help people write and publish their book. I was with the lieutenant governor of Missouri yesterday. He's running for governor. We just launched his book. He's giving it out to all these Missourians. I live in Missouri. And it's like, that's not sales to me, because like I get to help him share his message and his story. He's an amazing guy. He has an amazing story. And no part of that transaction was sales to me, because it was just relationship based. It was trust based. And so I just think when you finally find that thing where you're like, you truly view it as, this is not a sale, this is not a transaction. I am their trusted advisor and I am adding value to them, truly adding value, so that when they call me, I am going to impart value, free value, free. I'm going to give it away. So then when they come back to now buy something, there's the trust that's been built up, and it's a seamless thing as a sales rep, sales manager, because you've built that trust.
Well, you've said it all. There's a lot to what you just said. First of all, I want to tell you, I had to remain focused while you were talking, because the moment you mentioned juggling, it's another thing that you and I have in common. I wasn't the greatest juggler. I did win a talent show juggling. I got 3 up, a nice weave, went behind the back. My big trick was eating an apple, while I was juggling. The old apple trick.
Rob, here's the true question. Can you do it while on a unicycle?
Absolutely not. I can't ride a unicycle, but if I could, I would. How do you like that? It's just practice. But I could, but anyway, against the wall, all sorts of stuff, off my knee. I had my shtick. All right, but with that aside, an interesting story. I think you might find this interesting. One of my clients, maybe 15 years ago, I trained almost 600 polygraph examiners, and I had to sort of watch them sort of go through their process and sort of the anatomy of a lie. And what you realize is that most people who don't act with integrity, who lie, in their mind, they actually con themselves into believing what I did was okay. Yes, I stole money from the safe, but he left it open. And wait, he's got more money than the rest of the company. I'm just trying to put my kid through college. So that's how they rationalize that lack of integrity.
100%. That's a great point. And the storyline of the book is about the main character. It's a fable, and it's about a guy named Matt. And Matt's in the aviation sales industry, very lucrative industry. He's making a lot of money. Things are going great at work. He's crushing it. But at home, things are not so great. You know, his wife Kendra, she says, "Look, Matt, like I did not sign up to raise these kids alone." She said, "You need to provide." And his response was, it was kind of an arrogant response. He said, "Provide." He said, I make more money in 1 month than the average person does in a year. What do you mean provide? You get to stay home with the kids, you get to do all these things, right? So there's this tension at home, but then at work, things even get better. He gets the chance to make the sale of a lifetime. That's why we titled it The Sale. And this sale would actually bring in the company $72 million in revenue. He would get a commission check. Get this, $7 million, right? So, I mean, hey, I know you're pretty successful, but hey, it might be chump change to you, Rob, but for me, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of insurance sold. Yes, sir. I'm hearing you. Wow.
Yeah. You're like, I'm awake now, Alex. Tell me more. So he has
the chance get on the show. Oh, very nice to see you. Keep going.
He has the chance to make $7 million. But Rob, the only problem is, as you'll read about in the book, is he gets this inflection point where him and his team, they have to turn a blind eye to some major integrity issues. They essentially, they're not being transparent with the client. So the climax of the book is, does he make the sale, make all of this money? And to your point, he starts rationalizing, you know what, $7 million, I could retire, I could fix all my family problems. Or does he come clean with the client and be totally transparent? And, with all your listeners on the show, I can't tell you what he does because you have to read the book. Of course.
Don't tell them. No, they got to go get it. We all got to get that book.
They got to get the book. They got to get the book. That's my sale to them, I guess. But the principles that the main character Matt, he meets a guy named Randy who becomes his mentor, who teaches him these principles about integrity and about what it looks like from a long-term perspective. That's my message to people is, integrity. One of the principles from the book, integrity builds trust, right? So when you are a person who can be counted on, you not only talk the talk, you walk the walk. People see you as a person that is congruent, right? And when you are a congruent person, that naturally feeds into being a trustworthy person. And who do people do business with? People that they can trust.
Yeah. And by the way, that's another way to actually stay in business. We've all got the one-hit wonders. But there's stats out there. They've been out there forever. But how many satisfied customers will tell other people their experience? TARP, that's a company in DC, says maybe 3 to 4. How many people will they tell if they're not satisfied? Anywhere between 12 and 20. The numbers are really up there, and that puts a person out of business. We don't just miss our quarter or a quota. We're out of business. We're throwing around the word integrity a lot. Let's define it. I'd love to hear your definition of it. It's like sales. I get into a room a lot of times and I'll ask people, tell me what the definition of sales is. And they're all over the place. I think it's with integrity as well. What's your definition? You're the author.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the root word of integrity is the word integer. And so, you think back to 8th grade math class or 5th grade, whatever grade that would have been, integer is a whole or complete number. And so when you think about that, when I think about in my life, someone who is a fully integrated leader or sales rep or sales manager, there is something about that person that is just attractive. Like people, you want to be around that person. When that person is fully aligned in the values that they live in and that they believe in, they're the same person when people are watching, when they're not. I think a person who is fully integrated, you want to be around that person. And so I think with integrity, well, I'll say it like this. Warren Buffett had a quote that I love. He said, trust is like the air that we breathe. When it's present, you don't even really notice it. But when it's absent, you can't help but notice. You can't breathe. And so I just think about it in the same way. It's like if you're a person who is trustworthy, people, they just go to you, they count on you. But when the opposite is true, when you are a person who they lack trust in you, good luck being a good team member, family member, employee, whatever, because the lack of it is there and they just won't trust you. And so I think, without integrity, I think it is hard to have success. I look at your business and what you do to help people. If you haven't treated people the right way all these years, you wouldn't be a best-selling author. You wouldn't be doing these amazing things you're doing, but it's because you've treated people the right way. So and here's just a little shout out. Before we stepped on this podcast, you were getting a call. I'm going to brag on you for a minute. Someone's calling you and they're saying, hey, I loved your book. I want to hear more about your sales process. And literally before we, we're on the podcast, you said like, that was a humbling moment, to get that call. And it's like, but that's because you added value to him through your book and he used it. Now he's probably making more money now in his sales process because he's applying your principles. And I think that's what it's all about. Add value, be who you are, stay true to that. And it's just unbelievable to see what's on the other side of that when you truly say, how can I view this person as a human, not just a transaction?
Spoiler alert for everyone. I also mentioned in that story that doesn't happen a whole lot, particularly the phone ringing. But it was funny because Alex was coming on and I was like, wait 1 minute. This call I can't quite hang up on. Guys complimenting me. But all right, back to our show. Okay. It's interesting because I don't think that people wake up in the morning and say, you know what? Today, Alex, I'm not gonna act with integrity. Tomorrow I'll go back on the wagon here. But I don't think we set out that way. But I think it's sometimes what we'll call an unconscious incompetency as trainers, trainer to trainer. You've heard of the model unconscious incompetency, conscious incompetency. I think some people don't know that they don't know a little bit, or maybe they just don't want to look in that closet. You know what I mean? It's easy not to know if I don't open the door, I guess. But what do we say to them? When you're working with an organization, how do you kind of break it to them and kind of show them that line without insulting them?
That's a great question because that's so true. I think when there is no accountability, when there's no availability to speak truth, again, it goes back to if you're not willing to be questioned, you're a questionable leader. And I think about, I remember hearing about a survey that a CEO sent out to some of his employees, and it was an anonymous survey. And he said, what are there any blind spots that you see in my leadership? And anonymous survey. And he got a response back from one of his team members that said, you have so many blind spots as a leader that you shouldn't legally be able to drive a car. Imagine getting that email back.
Soften that up just a hair. I'm got the message, but with an anvil. Okay.
Exactly. And that's what he said. He was mad at first, but then when he sat back and he said, you know what, this person took the time to write this. They obviously have been hurt by me in some ways. He said, you know what, there's probably some truth in this. And I think when I think even just in my personal life, I think about, I have a mentor of mine. He's 73 years old. His name is Larry. He's lived so much more. I mean, I'm 31, so he's lived so much more life than me. And, he's a person where we meet at Hy-Vee, the local grocery store, and we just spend an hour together and I ask him questions. We read the word together. We read books. And I think about that where like that is a space for me where I can just be real. And I have the trust knowing that I can just share things that I maybe wouldn't share with everyone. And I think to your point of when someone doesn't know, it's kind of the blind spots they have. The reality is the people around you know. It's very clear to them. When I go to my wife and I can have a conversation like, babe, what's an area that I can do better in? How can I improve? She has a pretty long list ready for me. She maybe was just waiting for me to ask, right? And so, right. That's the reality. It's do you have the EQ? Do you have the emotional intelligence to say, hey, I know I have blind spots. but am I willing to ask the tough questions? I think about in business with my co-founder. When you co-own a business with someone, it's like you're in a work marriage together. And so when we first started, we tried to do everything alone. We're trying to navigate things together. But what we found as we've grown a business together is now we've had to bring in wise counsel. So even on certain things that we've gone back and forth on, we're great friends. But we've had to even have situations where we have a mediator who asks questions to kind of mediate. We've had even when things are going really good, we want to have wise counsel speaking into us to say, hey, how do we continue to have this success? And so I do think a big part of what you just said is accountability. Do you have people in your life that are going to ask you the hard questions and will be honest with you and love you because they want to see you better? But if you think you're above that, that is where trouble happens. Because like you said, no one wakes up one day and says, you know what, I want to ruin my marriage today. I want to get fired from my job. No one does that. But there's a song by a band called Casting Crowns, and the song is called Slow Fade. And I'm not going to sing it for your audience here. Sorry to let you down here.
Some guest you are, Alex, but keep going.
Yeah. Hey, if you have me on again, maybe I'll practice. But one of the lines in lyrics, it says, the last line, it's called Slow Fade. It says, people never crumble in a day. And I think what it is, it's these small rationalizations over time. I think about, Dave Ramsey, he has this financial plan. It's the debt snowball, right? Where over time you start paying off debt, this snowball grows. Well, in the same way, you start rationalizing small integrity issues, small things that starts out as just like a little small thing at first. Well, guess what? You get away with it again, you keep going. All of a sudden, you've built this snowball of decisions that then you wake up one day and you make some just stupid decision that now has a ripple effect on people, your organization, your credibility, and it all could have been avoided if you were willing to have the tough questions that are not fun. Like when I meet with my mentor sometimes, 73 years old, there are things that I share with him that I'm not super proud of. It's not always fun and roses and yay, Pollyanna positive. No, it's sometimes like, hey, you know what? I think you were too harsh in that situation and you need to make it right with that person. That is a hard conversation, right? And I'm not perfect, and neither are any of us. But the question is, are you willing to humble yourself to ask those questions, to say, look, I don't have it figured out. I know I have blind spots and I need help in those areas. And who are those people in your life that you can call on to say, hey, what is it that you see in me that you think could even be better? And I think if you're willing to ask those conversations, that's where you see the growth happen. And then it affects the way you sell. Because if you're a person who thinks, oh, I'm the hot shot sales and I'm making all this money, and you overlook some of these character issues, you will burn out. They can smell it from a mile away. And so I think that's my message to when I go speak to sales teams is, look, are you doing this the right way to where in 10 years, 20 years, you're going to look back and say, I can sleep well at night because I did this the right way. Yes, I was very successful, but I served people and I made this world a better place because I added value. I helped people and they looked at me as a trusted advisor because I did it the right way.
Yeah. Alex, I think what people struggle with is the line. There's a line and we want to make it very black and white right now. And maybe you do. But, I remember when I remember I was never going to be the guy back in my day, we had cars with three wheels and we liked it that way. But I will tell you, I remember, when there were pay phones and I used to, I've been at this 31 years. And so I remember actually throwing out an example one time and going, because people are like, I'll always act with integrity. I know the line. I go, okay, well, let's say you put a quarter in a payphone, you make a call and the quarter pops back out, which by the way, used to happen like every 3 or 4 times. Being dropped back in. I'm sure you grab an envelope and mail it to the phone company. That's not your quarter. It's not your quarter. It's not kind of your quarter. It isn't yours. It was a mistake. But no one's going to mail that quarter back. So pardon the pun. But so let's hold that on one side, and then it gets even slipperier. I would throw another example. I had a Mont Blanc pen. One of my classes at Xerox gave me. I loved that pen. It was, I always thought anybody with a Mont Blanc pen's a snob until I got one. I loved that pen. And one day I left it. I was writing in a library thing. I left it and somebody got it. I was like, I was crushed. And about 3 weeks later, I was sitting at a restaurant And when I got there was a Mont Blanc pen sitting there. It wasn't mine, but you know what was going off in my head?
Mm.
Well, now wait a minute. Here comes that rationalization, right? Wait a minute. Now you know somebody got your pen. Maybe this pen's meant for you. You know, and I don't think that's quite as gray as the first example, but you see the line I'm talking
Yeah.
about? I don't
Yeah.
think it's a perfect line. Maybe that's one of the reasons why, at the end of the day, we do struggle a little bit because it just isn't so as clear as we want it to be.
That's a great point. No, that's a great point. And I do think when it even comes to making commitments to yourself, like the values you stand for, the things that you are about, it's more about who you're becoming than what you do, right? And so I think, in these moments of, when you kind of breach integrity, even with yourself,
Yeah.
I think there is this kind of lack of confidence that starts to happen where you start to feel like, wow, I can't even like make the right decisions with myself. And so I think the best leaders, they lead from the inside out. So they lead themselves first, then can lead others. And so I think, yeah, that's a great point. I mean, when it comes to kind of these gray areas. And so I think that's just something that even just writing this book, it's like the gray areas in my life, I just want to just completely be so far away from the line that I don't even want it to be an issue. Again, not saying that I'm perfect, not saying that you're perfect, but it's something that I think, yeah, unless you consciously make a decision of, hey, this is the type of, like, here's a good example. I had a high school student reach out to me on Instagram and he said, hey, my brother went off to college and he became an alcoholic. And he said, I just don't want to go down that path. I saw you speak and I wanted to reach out to you. He said, what should I do so I don't go down the same path? And I said, bro, thank you for reaching out. Like that is a very like just wise thing for you to be doing. And I said, first off, it's really cool that you reached out. Second off, I said, before you ever step foot on campus, you have to make the decision of who you are going to be. Like you have to decide the type of person you want to be, your values, what you stand for. Because if you don't, when you step on campus, you will be bombarded with all kinds of things you've never seen before, tasted before, whatever. And if you don't know who you are before that happens, good luck trying to navigate those decisions. And so that's my answer to questions like that of like, hey, I have this gray area, what do I do? It's like, well, if you pre-decide who what you stand for, who you are, well, then you've actually already made the decision. I heard Craig Groeschel, he's a leadership speaker. He's founded all these amazing things. He said, why struggle with a temptation tomorrow when you could avoid it today? And so his whole point is like, okay, if you can't get up and go to the gym, if you wake up in the morning and you're like, you know what, I always wake up, I'm cold, I don't have my, he's like, okay, well then set out your clothes and put them on the floor. So when your alarm hits, you get your clothes and you walk out the door. It's like you pre-decide. And I heard another guy, John Acuff, he said, night me is for planning, morning me is for action. His whole point was, when I wake up in the morning, I have all these thoughts. I don't get up. I don't want to, but he's like, the night before, I'm going to plan. And then in the morning, all I have to do is worry about action. I'm just going to get up and go, and I'll figure it out later, And so I just think it's the pre-decision is really what sets, I think, high-performing sales reps apart, leaders apart, because they've pre-decided who they are. And so like these outside noises, these outside distractions, it's, a bodybuilder who's 100% committed to being a bodybuilder, it's easy for him to be 100% committed than 98% committed, because when someone comes up to him on the street and says, hey, do you want this ice cream cone? If he's 98% committed, he has to consider, I wonder if I should have this ice cream cone and maybe have a cheat meal. Maybe I should do that. But if he's 100% committed, he's like, hey, you know what? Thank you so much, but I just don't do that. He's pre-decided. And I think we can all, in different ways of our lives, do that in different areas.
Hey, Alex, you just nailed it. I'm serious. You just nailed it. And I'm going to tell you what I pulled from what you just said, because I also believe I'm not a bodybuilder, although I perhaps look like one.
I thought you
I'm
were, man.
massive.
I thought you were, but
it's a camera angle. No, but I'll tell you what, you've really cleared up for me, and it's crystal clear. I threw at you, Greg. Alex, it's Greg. But that 100% really resonates with me, because there's so many things that we do professionally as speakers. 98% of the time I'm on time. No, I'm 100% on time. 95% of the time I give my best. No, actually, I always give my best. We can go, I want 50 more. And you and I, we do it because we don't want to open that door of doubt. There's always a voice going, let's phone this one in. But when we've never listened, the voice is very quiet. Okay.
Mm,
So I'm going to go back to that example. Honestly, I actually mean this. If there was a payphone and it dropped a quarter, I'd leave it there. I don't know if I'm going to spend 70 cents to mail back a quarter, but I'm leaving it there. It's not mine. The pen is not mine. That's not a
mm,
hard decision. Has
mm.
nothing to do. That's rationalization. So
Yep.
earlier I'd asked you, what was your definition of integrity? I'd like to share with you mine. I never wrote it down, but mine is doing what you know is right, even if no one will ever know it. You know,
Mm,
no one's looking over. It's like golf. Maybe you could kick the ball 3 inches. Boy, that would actually clear that little stump. Good for you. Except you know it. So that's a lack of integrity, even if you can get away with it. So the quarter, the pen, and every other example really is black and white. And you've inspired me by reminding me that if you don't want to play by that game, just remember you're coming off that 100% and you're opening up a box you may not want to open up. That's not confusing to me anymore. That's clear.
that I really thank you for saying that. That's how you just reframed it as well was very helpful for me to even hear you say that because it's so true. Because what is a small issue, maybe a quarter of all these examples, yes, it starts out small, but then as you do those things, then you think, well, I could do it over here as well. And then all of a sudden, to your point, you don't wake up and want to ruin your life. You wake up one day and you say, holy smokes, I allowed this slow fade to occur that could have totally been stopped if I was willing to bring accountability, bring friends, people that care about you. It just makes such a difference, man.
Yeah, you were mentioning your wife. My wife makes fun of me because, amongst many other things, I call myself OCD-ish. Okay. I don't hit the snooze bar. People know this about Rob Jolly. You could probably Google me and hit Jolly snooze bar. Something will come up. I'm very outspoken about this damn snooze bar. But I made a commitment the night before to get up at X time. Okay. Why would I want to hit the snooze bar? And how much easier would it be to hit it the next day? Because I don't even know how it works. I don't want to hit it. It's poison to me. I've
Mm.
never hit it, never will. But it's symbolic of what we're talking about of no, 100%. If I make a commitment, it's the first commitment in the morning, I'm on it. So really that sheds some great light for me. One of the things I love about doing a podcast is learning from authors like you of things that I've carried around for decades thinking there really is a line, but there isn't a line. No, there is a line. It's absolutely a line. And I just think that's anyway, you've really helped me there. My therapy session's almost over. But
No, man, I appreciate you saying it like that. And I just think that's my encouragement to your listeners for someone, if you're in a sales role and if you're maybe you're a manager of sales reps, and it's like, what are there any areas in your career, in your position that you, when you really think holistically about it and you think about the client process and like the way you're selling, the way you're doing things, not only are there any areas where maybe there's a line that you need to consider, but also have you considered what that's been doing to you as far as when you make those decisions? It's almost like this, you're completely, you continue to do it over and over again. And my challenge is it's never too late to turn the other direction and start making a difference. And I think that's my encouragement is, you see an example of someone who finishes well, like finishes their career, their life, they finish well. It's honestly rare. You think about political leaders or whoever, and a lot of times there's maybe a scandal in old age, and you're like, what in the world? Who would have thought that, right? And now it's almost like people look at people in politics and they think, wow, everyone has all these things going on. And the reality is, it's like if you can look at your life and if you almost reverse engineer it, like when I am 90 years old, how do I want to look back on it? I think it reframes things, and I think you look at the small short-term decisions differently,
yeah.
rather than saying, hey, in the short term I'm going to make this commission check. It's like, hey, who am I becoming in the process versus, hey, like, what can I make? What am I doing in the process?
Absolutely. All right, we're coming down. One more question. I'll let you go. But you bragged about me a little bit with that phone call. I really did get that phone call, and not that everyone can call me now, but I'm just telling you, it meant something. All right, you bragged about me. I want you to brag about you a little bit. Tell me about you're working with clients, you're consulting with clients. Give me a success story of yours, where you went in there and turned a company or an organization or an individual around, with your message of integrity and positive change.
That's awesome, man. I think thanks for teeing that up. I think it was actually the first time I ever spoke on the integrity message. So I was in my 20s and I remember being imposter syndrome. I walked into this room, there was eight CEOs, there was eight like CEOs and business leaders, and I knew a lot of them. It was honestly like parents of my friends. Again, I was like 26 years old, and I remember being very much like, I should not be in this room, but one of them invited me. They knew I was wanting to get into speaking. They said, hey, come try it out. And I go in there and I share this message. This was a long time, years ago, before it was at this point with the book and everything. And I shared the message. And afterwards, I asked for feedback. Hey, would anybody, they all filled out surveys. And one of the CEOs, he owns this massive car dealership. It almost makes me emotional to talk about it. He said, Alex, he said, your message is applicable to my business every single day. He said, you need to share this message all over the country. You need to go all over the world and don't stop sharing it, because he said every industry deals with integrity issues. I don't care who you are, what business you have. He said, I had an integrity issue with an employee yesterday. And he said, the things that you just shared, he said, you need to share it for the rest of your life. And so that was insane for me to experience that, literally my first time ever sharing it. And so again, you don't always get those responses after you go speak, as you know, but that was a really cool way that I feel like he was just speaking to my soul in that moment of like, hey, you need to go do this work. And that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to say, you know what, he's right. I can't look down, just because I'm younger, or whatever, and I haven't had as much life experience. It's like, look, my message is more important than me. So I can't have this self-doubt of like, oh, I haven't accomplished this. So I can't. No, it's like everyone needs a message like that. And so that would be one thing. And then the second thing, for anyone listening who they want to share their story, whether it's in sales or just their life story in a book, I would say Streamline Books has been so fun, because it's one thing to publish my own book. It's fun to go on a book tour and speak about it. But man, being with people to help them share their story and their message, that has been really fun. And so, Rob, I will even say this for any of your listeners on this show, if they reach out to me, we will extend a discount. We will extend the Rob discount for their book. You heard it here first, folks. For anyone who wants to write their book, we'll make sure they get a discount. And we'd love to honor that for anyone from this podcast, because we truly love getting to help steward people's stories and share their frameworks that allow them to grow their business, their impact, and their influence.
Well, first of all, let's make that bonus code. Rob Jollis is amazing. If they leave off amazing, you don't get quite the discount. So get all of that in there when you contact them. How do people get a hold of you, Alex?
Yeah, so my website is alexspeaking.com, and there's information on my speaking and Streamline Books. But then Streamline's website is writemybooks.com.
Perfect. And I do want you to know that although I don't have a business where I really support authors the way you do, and I'm glad you do, it's not lost on me how amazing it feels to help somebody birth a book. I'm probably in my just unofficially birthed about 25 books that aren't mine. And
wow.
And they are like my children too. You know what I mean? Books are like our children. They mean a lot to us. We give them the best start we can, and then we wish them well in that world. But when it's somebody else's book, it's a different feeling. And in some ways, it's even better, as strange as that sounds, because we know the joy that we were blessed to experience ourselves. So I think that's terrific that you're doing that. I hope people do contact you because there's nothing like getting a book out there, and like you say, hearing that story from the dealership, from the phone call, whatever it is. Don't think about it. You walk down the street, 99 of 100 people will tell you, I've always wanted to write a book. Put one foot in front of the other and call Alex. Okay. Go, but get that book written and get a mentor in your pocket, because you'll have great tips, techniques, and you'll be an accountability coach, which is really important.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, I've been hearing great things about your show. I didn't know you were as much of a comedian as you are, man. Is that a second career for you? You do speaking, but also some stand-up comedy?
Well, as strange as this sounds, my son is actually a professional comedian.
Oh, that's awesome.
Danny Jollis. So I get to
That's
live
great.
vicariously through that. I chose the corporate route and just sort of sneak comedy in there. He's got the big boy pants on. People are waiting for it when he gets up there.
Hey,
You get to surprise them.
that's the tougher. I feel like your son is brave because that's tough. Because for us, if we go crack some jokes and at the state auditors conference, I mean, they're laughing as hard. They've never laughed so hard, and we're like, wow, I didn't even try to do that. But your son, man, he goes into the lion's den when they're
Oh,
going,
yeah.
all right. They cross their arms and they say, "Okay, buddy, make us laugh."
Yeah,
That is a true person right there.
you
That's
bet.
talent.
And if you ever want to get a taste of it, I've done 2 open mic nights, and both of them to me were my knees were knocking, and I'm 40 years on a stage. So you hit it on the head, Alex. I really appreciate your time. Love the conversation. Wish you nothing but success, and just very grateful you came on the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
Well, we'll do it again as best as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.